everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and you know what time of the week it is. It's Friday. It's mandatory to get down on Friday because it's time to talk about wrestlers of the week. As always, right, we start off with the honourable mentions, but it's so difficult this week because I think that both AEW Dynamite and NXT were wonderful shows. So I've just got like everyone on AEW and NXT that's not mentioned in this top 10 really, especially Joey Janela. I would have loved to have got Joey Janela in. I really enjoyed his match with Kenny Omega, but it was a very, very strong week elsewhere and I just couldn't quite squeeze him in, which is a tremendous shame. Sorry, Joey. Sorry, the bad boy Joey Janela. Maybe next time. Also want to give a shout out to Cara Noir, who had an excellent match of Progress. Yeah, that's pretty much. So everyone on AEW, everyone on NXT, and just Cara Noir from Progress as well. What a week it's been. But now on to the top 10, and it's time to talk about my number 10, scooping up one cheeky Geordie point this week. It's only bloody Pac. Pac had that excellent match in the main event of AEW Dynamite against Jon Moxley. In fact, I think that I didn't even mind the finish very much. A lot of people were unhappy because it went to a TV time limit draw, but at the same time, I think it was wise. I don't think you should really have beaten Pac or beaten Moxley when they're both two of the biggest singles stars in the promotion, and obviously they've got to lose at some point in a singles match, but I think right now wasn't the right sort of time. I didn't mind the finish. I thought both guys as well really emphasised their desperation to pull out a win with time ticking down. I thought it was really well done, like most of the show was, to be fair. Pac's performance in particular really impressed me. We all know how nimble and agile and fast he is, but also it's easy to forget just how freakishly strong he is as well, especially for a man of his size. I'm talking, of course, about that Falcon Arrow, that avalanche Falcon Arrow from the second rope, and also that insane 450 splash as well. That was another really cool high spot in the match. A 450 from the apron to the floor onto Moxley. It was all really good stuff, and it wasn't just the moves that Pac did really well, it was his emoting, it was his selling of the psychology of the match, the increasing desperation and all that. And I know that Ross as well was a big fan of his exploding chair, because as Moxley was making his entrance, Pac clocked him in the back of the head with the edge of a steel chair, and just as he did it, there was an explosion noise as well. I don't know if it was part of Moxley's theme music, maybe some sort of pyro effect, but he went It was really funny. It was really funny and fun. Number 9, Michael Elgin. Now, it might be easy to forget that Impact actually had Bound for Glory on Sunday, their big annual pay-per-view, because there's just been so much other wrestling going on. But it was an okay show, not as strong as some other recent Impact pay-per-views in my opinion, but it was still alright. And I think that probably the best match of the night, or the best singles match of the night certainly, was Michael Elgin versus Naomichi Marufuji. It was a good back and forth match. It took a little while for the crowd to get into it, but they went for kind of a Japan kind of strong style thing with both guys trading stiff shots, you know, using warrior spirit to hype up and, you know, come back at each other twice as strong as before and that sort of thing. But, you know, it was good. Even though the crowd weren't that enthusiastic for most of the match, it was still a good contest between two very, very good wrestlers. That's the reason Elgin gets 2 points. Not only was it a good match, but it was a good win for Elgin as well, and really continues his run, I suppose, as one of the top main event level stars of Impact, even though for the minute he's taken a step away from the main event title picture. Marufuji, though, I have to say, it wasn't the best week for him just in terms of the booking, because he was brought in for this exhibition showcase match against Michael Elgin, and then he lost, and then got sent packing. So it was a really good week for Elgin in terms of results, not that great for Marufuji. Number 8, remember how I mentioned Cara Noir in the old honourable mentions? Well, now let's talk about their opponent, Ilya Dragunov. Dragunov is no stranger to Wrestlers of the Week. In fact, I think a couple of months ago he was my Wrestler of the Week, and that's just because he's phenomenal in the ring. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world today, I reckon. Unfortunately, he doesn't quite get the exposure he deserves, or at least not yet. He's not quite ascended to the heights in NXT UK that I thought he would, but there's still a lot of time, and I do think he could be the man to take that United Kingdom Championship away from Volta. But at Progress, he had a wonderful match with Cara Noir, a match that really highlighted the differences between the two. Cara Noir is kind of a Velveteen Dream style figure, very theatrical, wears face paint, not your typical macho manly wrestler, but a very captivating character nonetheless. And then you've got obviously Dragunov, who is like Mr. Ultra Intensity. Dragunov picked up the win, which I think was the more predictable outcome, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the match wasn't very good. I mean, Cara Noir has had excellent matches this year with the likes of Pac, Pete Dunne, I believe, as well. And I really wish I could have included them in the top 10 at some point. But at the same time, it was a really good performance from Ilya Dragunov as well, who I think has possibly been Progress's MVP, if you will, of 2019. Number 7, bask in his glory. It's the man of the hour, Keith Lee. Let's go to NXT and let's talk about that wonderful main event. Obviously, everyone remembers the angle from after the main event now with Finn Balor being a dirty bastard, but the match before it was wonderful as well, and Keith Lee was a vital component of that. It was triple threat action for Roderick Strong's North American Championship. Strong versus Lee versus Dominik Dijakovic, and the setup of the match, the very construct of it, was really unique and well done. It's, you know, the classic tale, I suppose, but we don't see it that often of the cowardly heel champion against just two absolute strong behemoth kind of opponents. I was going to say two baby faces, but I think that Dijakovic is more of a heel, Keith Lee's more of a baby face, but really those sort of allegiances were put aside in this match for more of the dynamic of a cowardly champion trying to scramble his way to victory against two really dangerous foes. Lee and Dijakovic obviously have a wonderful chemistry together, and they managed to blend Strong into the match wonderfully well too. Lee was showing off not only his immense strength, but also his incredible agility as well. There were some terrifying dives to the outside, and he was also the base of the most terrifying Tower of Doom I've seen in a very, very long time. It was absolutely terrifying. But I can't talk about Keith Lee for that long because my next wrestler of the week is one of his opponents. That's right, it's Dominik Dijakovic. Dijakovic was also a part of that terrifying Tower of Doom spot. He was on Keith Lee's shoulders, I believe, and he had Roderick Strong in sort of superplex position, and because his feet weren't planted on the floor, I guess he could only use his upper body strength to hold Roderick Strong like that in the air diagonally, and it looked like he was going to drop Strong at one point to the outside and it would have been horrible, but he managed to keep hold of him and fall backwards into some sort of like massive superplex Tower of Doom kind of thing. It's one of the most crazy spots I've seen all year, and a huge part of that was the incredible strength of Dominik Dijakovic. Another really cool moment in the match was the moment where Roderick Strong had just been absolutely decimated on the outside by both men, and then they looked at each other and they each said, okay, and and then they both got in the ring and decided to settle things man to man with the champion totally out of the equation. It was a really good performance from Dijakovic, a really selfless one as well. I think at one point Keith Lee did some sort of like diving tumble to the outside, not sure what exact move it was, but Dijakovic had to catch him and just did on his back and like obviously sold it, but really brave performance there from Dijakovic, and I think fully deserves a lot of points on Wrestlers of the Week for that. But again, I can't talk about Dijakovic for too long because my next Wrestler of the Week is only the bloody heel of the list since its very inception, sneaky old Roderick Strong, putting in a good performance during, actually it's been a really strong week for in-ring action, so I can't blame him too much. He's really been turning it around this year. In 2018, Strong would always wait until there was a week with not much action and then just put on a banger of a match and get 10 or 9 points. This year, he's been getting points despite the immense competition around him. He's turning it round, is Roddy. And I commend him for that, yeah? Strong played his role in this match to perfection. Obviously, the champion looking to basically... It was a game of self-preservation for him in this match, trying to survive everything these two huge monsters could throw at him and basically letting them destroy each other before sneaking in and picking up the win for himself. I was a little bit worried that his win would be overshadowed by that post-match angle involving Balor and Gargano, and obviously Ciampa as well, and the rest of the Undisputed Era, but I don't think it was. I think it all played its part and made for a captivating end to the NXT show this week, and I think a huge part of that was Roderick Strong for his wonderful performance in the match. I'm really enjoying Strong as North American Champion. I think even, to be honest, since turning heel and joining the Undisputed Era, he has been one of the highlights of NXT for me, and long may it continue. You know, I know they were teasing a breakup between Strong and Cole at some point, but I'm really glad they kept the stable together for now. It seemed to have been a wise decision, and to be honest, for the foreseeable future, I don't want to see Strong leave the Undisputed Era. I'm liking it as it is. Next up, let's go to a promotion that I'm never too confident talking about because I don't know that much about them. All Japan Pro Wrestling, and on number 4 this week, Jake Lee. Now, Jake Lee has been kind of in and around the title scene, but he's never quite managed to capture that Triple Crown Championship from the reigning champion and the ace of All Japan, Kenzo Miyahara. But he faced him just last night, I think, actually, at the time of recording, in a banger of a match and a certified Match of the Year contender. Jake Lee was wonderful here, resilient, brave. You know, he was really taking it to this champion who's almost becoming consumed by his own cockiness because he's been so dominant in All Japan in 2019. But Jake Lee really took it to him, and you may argue, you know, it would have been a huge surprise if Jake Lee had managed to win the title, but at the same time, I think he put in a really good performance and did have the crowd doubting themselves, and myself watching it as well, for a lot of this match. The closing sequence was awesome too, with both men just drenched in sweat, just really struggling for each and every move, each reversal, and eventually it was Kenzo who managed to put him away with kind of a bridging German type effort, probably fancier than that I suppose, we are talking about Japanese wrestling, but it was an awesome match and a really worthy performance from Jake Lee. I think they introduced an element of doubt as well into proceedings, just because Jake Lee had recently scored a win over Kenzo in tournament action, so there was the slight chance that he could have won, but I would have liked to have been captivated just a little bit more, and I'd have liked for them to have built a bit more to the potential of a title change, which I never really took seriously. But apart from that, a wonderful, wonderful match. Number 3, oh my god, one of my favourite wrestlers of 2019, and just an absolute bad man, a boss man MC. I'm so white, I'm so uncool. It's Phoenix. Phoenix was part of 2 great matches this week. We had obviously the tag team match on AEW Dynamite, himself and Pentagon taking on the Private Party and defeating them to move to the tournament final. And also in AAA, Phoenix is no longer the Mega Champion, the Mega Campeón de AAA. A-star in GCC Spanish, everyone, so check me out, yeah? But he's no longer the champion because he lost the title to Kenny Omega in what was a fantastic match. And as Matthew said on the podcast, would probably be talked about as a match of the year contender if just more people had seen it. But great stuff from Phoenix, as I say, and one of my favourite bits of any tag match involving the Lucha Brothers is the very end when they're about to win, when they hit like the whole package pile driver double foot stomp thing, and then Phoenix sees the illegal man on the outside of the ring and just recklessly just flies into them with one of the best suicide dives in the business today. And it just always puts a nice exclamation point on those matches. If they could somehow, get the camera crew to pick up that first time instead of relying on replays, that would probably be even better. Number 2, Kenzo Miyahara. I've talked about him already, the ace of All Japan and still the Triple Crown champion as well. Yeah, if you can get a hold of it, I wholly recommend checking out this match with Jake Lee. Kenzo, I think with this performance on Wrestlers of the Week, has jumped above Okada again for 2019, and that should really show that there's not just one ace over in Japanese wrestling. There's 2, there's Okada and there's Kenzo. There's obviously more if you look at other promotions as well, like Ben K and Dragon Gate, for example. But at the moment, I think arguably the most impressive ace of the year is Kenzo Miyahara. Okada had 2018 locked up, of course, but in 2019, he's been really, really good, but you could always argue that Kenzo has been even better. There's not much more to say. I talked about my thoughts on the match during the Jake Lee bit of this video, so I don't know what. Kenzo's got nice hair. I'm enjoying his character work because he's a face, but he's getting heelish now and then because he's so cocky. It's a bit like Pac when he was NXT champion. He's really good, and you should watch him wrestle. And I like his gear as well. His gear's fantastic. There you go. But number 1 and my wrestler of the week, I did a bit of looking at last year's league tables in preparation for this, and this guy was wrestler of the week 3 times last year and hasn't been wrestler of the week at all this year, apart from this week when he is number 1, and his name is the Best Bout Machine and the nemesis of Seth Rollins in really childish Twitter spats. It's Kenny Omega. Big Kenneth had a really, really good week. He had that excellent match with Joey Janela on AEW Dynamite, in which, watching it, I was just thinking, yes, Kenny Omega's a single star again, regularly appearing as part of wrestling shows, because for a lot of the year, he's been busy, helping set up an entire new wrestling promotion, which makes a lot of sense. But he had this excellent singles match with Joey Janela on AEW Dynamite, and then an even better match against Phoenix in AAA to become the new AAA Mega Champion. I'm not sure how Kenny's time as champion is going to go. Obviously, he's got to divide his time now between AEW and defending that title in AAA, so it's going to be quite interesting to see what he does going forwards. But at the same time, I'm also going to be interested to see how his reign is received, because there's been a lot made recently of the differences between Mexican wrestling and American wrestling, and Omega is very much more, well, he's got obviously Japanese style running through his entire body of work, but he is far more of an American style wrestler than a lucha libre style wrestler, so the crowd responds to him a little bit differently. He's obviously going to heel it up there, I think, because he was healing it up in the match against Phoenix, and it was so refreshing to see Omega as a heel once again, being all cocky, being like he was when he was in the Bullet Club as the cleaner, and it was just so nice to see him back at that stage again. I like him as a babyface, don't get me wrong, but I love him as a heel. And if there was ever a reason to turn him heel in AEW, I'd say take it. Turn him mega heel, maybe a year down the line or two, and I think that would be absolutely captivating. And now it's time to look, of course, at the league table. As we see, Kenzo Miyahara has moved up to 4th place, while Pac has edged 1 point clear of Johnny Gargano and is now up into 8th position. Phoenix is up into 12th, closing in a lot on the top 10 after an electrifying few months. A little bit further down, look out next week for David Starr and Jordan Devlin, who are set to have a banger of a match in OTT tomorrow night. Check out the video package as well, because it's absolutely superb. The hype package for that match is unreal. And at the bottom we see that Kenny Omega and Roderick Strong have both joined the top 25. Sneaky Roderick Strong. What a dick. Thanks very much for watching, and let us know what you think in the comments section down below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic and on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do, then please do check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Cultaholic, where you can pledge. And don't forget, of course, most importantly of all, to hit subscribe and to join us.